Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, I am Chaitanya. You're watching Chai with Chaitanya. This is a place where I talk about books, movies, and fandoms. So let's get started. And I'm here today to talk about the 21 books that I want to read in 2021. Now, this list of books does not comprise of the titles that are coming out in 2021, but these are the books that were on my shelf. These were the books that are follow-ups of series, or it's the start of a new series, or just standalones, classics, and just very diverse bunch of books that I've put together that I thought that I should be reading, and it's about time to read them because some of these books have really been sitting on my shelf for way too long, and I think that they deserve to be read. And some of them are also ARCs and review copies, so I've included them as well. So let's get started and jump right into this and get to know more about each of these 21 reads that I've picked up and why have I picked them up. So keep watching. So the first on my list of the 21 books that I want to read in 2021 is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Now this book is been on Instagram, on Bookstagram since over a year, and it's been doing wonders. Everybody's talking about it, and I always wanted to get back to this book and see what it is, but somehow it was not available in India until Pan Macmillan India sent me a copy of this book as a review copy. And by the time this video goes out, I would probably be somewhere around the end of this book because I've already dived in and I'm reading it. And this book mainly deals with this character called Linus Baker. He is a caseworker for the Ministry of Magic, some sort of magic. I'm forgetting the name. It's called Diacomy in short. And he is his sole purpose and his sole job is to visit magical orphanages that houses magical children with special abilities. And he is sent to one of these very difficult orphanages which nobody wants to go to or nobody has ever visited, because the children at these orphanages are truly very dangerous and they are believed that they could bring the end of the world as they know it. So Linus is supposed to go there and spend a month with these children and see if everything is running just fine and how these children are, and if the ministry needs to step in and shut this orphanage down. So now in general, this book is a very heartwarming read. I truly haven't come across a book which is so hopeful, and it's about family and it's about diversity, inclusion, acceptance, and it's all those good things that you want in this world. And I think the way it's written, it's very metaphorical because obviously these characters, they have their own special abilities which are mostly magical, and it's very different from the world that we live in, and yet it's so similar. Like I, for that matter, cannot choose to overlook the certain similarities and contrasts that is drawn between the world that TJ Klune has created and the one that we truly live in. So yes, this is my first book. The second book that I've picked up for myself is Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus, another book that has been around for quite a while and has created certain amount of buzz that just doesn't seem to die down anytime soon. And I truly do not know a lot about this book apart from the fact that it deals with some sort of magical circus, because it's on the title, the name suggests it, and that there are two clans. One is run by this girl and the other is run by the guy, and that there is an enemies to lovers between them. And that's just about it. I've been told that not to know a lot about this book, about the plot before going into it, because that would not make me experience the sheer beauty and brilliance that this book is. The reason why I picked it up is because of the very same reason, because a lot of people have told me about it. A lot of friends and a lot of book bloggers that I personally follow and I always look up to have spoken their hearts out about this book, and how that it's very atmospheric, the world building is great, the romance is absolutely stunning, and it's just one of those very beautiful and perfect fantasy reads, and any fantasy lover should not miss this book. So yes. Now the next book that I have is Lawrence Shippen's The Infinite Noise, and this was a book that I picked up only because I saw that there is an empath's journey in it. Recently last year, because of the COVID pandemic, I had the worst kind of time in my life, and it was so bad that I almost got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and in the form of hypochondriasis. So I constantly felt that I was sick or I have some sort of disease, and it was just a very tough time in general, and I thought I'll never get out of it. Not that I'm completely out of it right now, but yes, I'm doing a lot better. But I was told to start CBT, and I checked in with my therapist. And in the therapy sessions, I got to know that I am also an empath, and that empath is actually a personality type, and that there's only 8% of empaths in the world, is what my therapist told me. And that really stuck with me because I could truly understand what empath is only after reading a lot many articles on empath. So I really wanted to see if there are any books that explore empaths in specific. And I came across this book on GOODREADS, and I was very glad to know that this is also an LGBTQIA plus read. So we have one character who is, I'm not sure of the name, I think he is, what is his name, Caleb. So Caleb is the empath, and he is also a footballer, and he gets to meet this guy in his classroom who is very quiet. And because Caleb is an empath, he can truly understand what he's going through even without this quiet guy telling him what he's going through. And then they strike up a friendship, and they just happen to go about with it, and things happen and sparks fly in between them, and that's just how it goes. So yes, that was the reason why I picked this up, and I cannot wait to read and see how is the representation here in this book, because again, I haven't read any book with empath characters in specific before. So yep. Up, I have Well Met by Jean DeLuca. This is a book that I only bought because of the gorgeous cover that it has. And from what I know, it is a contemporary romance which has two characters, Emily and I think Simon. And Emily has recently moved to help in a small town to help her sister. And in this small town, there is a Renaissance fair that is being organized. And this Renaissance fair is the family legacy of Simon, so he needs to make sure that it's going all well and all correct. He is also the school master and who's in charge of the volunteers. So that is where these two people meet, and both these people play some characters in this fair. And while they are in the fair and they are in their characters, they flirt with each other, and they're very normal, and all they're all into each other. But the moment they are off stage and they're not in the characters and they are in their real life, that is when the magic spell breaks, and they are left confused as to what they want to do and what they truly see in each other and what do they want to do with their respective lives. So I'm not sure which trope it is categorized as, because I haven't done that sort of research or have looked into the reviews. But from whatever little that I've heard, it's a great book, and it has some really steamy romance, graphic scenes, if that is something that you like. Also, that it's just a very heartwarming read in general. I picked it up mainly because, as I said, of the cover, and also because of the setting, because I haven't read a lot of books, in fact any books with Renaissance setting and or anything to do with Renaissance in general. So I was very intrigued, and I thought that this would definitely make for a interesting background for a romance to read. Fifth and the sixth book on my list are the part of the same series, that is Aquitar, A Coat of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I have to read the third book and the novella, which is A Coat of Wings and Ruin and A Coat of Frost and Starlight, respectively. And I'm trying to finish both these books before A Coat of Silver Flames gets out and published, that is on 15th Feb 2021. So I would have to really speed up on my reading and read this gigantic book if I can. And I'm not sure because there's a lot on my TBR as of now, but I would try. And for those of you who have been following me on my Bookstagram, on my WordPress, or on my YouTube channel, you would know that I recently started reading Aquitar just before 2020 was about to end. I picked it up, I read the first book in January, I read the second book, which is A Coat of Mist and Fury, and so far I am really enjoying the way the story is moving forward. Yes, I have a lot of opinions, and most of them are not with the popular ones. Like, I find Feyre's character to be extremely problematic. I think that Rhysand is a big manipulator and a gaslighter. And while he has qualities that definitely redeems him, but you cannot completely choose to overlook the problematic aspects of Rhysand's character, just how you cannot overlook what Tamlin did with Feyre. So I cannot truly wait to get into these two books and see where the story goes, and then be able to pick up the new book that is coming out very soon. So if you're looking for an introduction to Aquitar by Sarah J. Maas, then I would suggest that you go watch my first book review, that is Aquitar, A Coat of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I would be linking that down in the description box, so you can directly move to that video and see it for yourself and decide if this is a series that is for you. I think that it is very well done. The characters are very nuanced, they're very layered. It has a lot of fantasy elements into it, and it's not very difficult. It might feel like a high fantasy for a couple of people who are very new to fantasy, but in general, it's not high fantasy. At least I don't see it or categorize it as high fantasy for myself. And if I can read this, then I think you can too, because I truly do not read a lot of fantasy in general, and this is one of those really rare fantasies that I really did enjoy. So yes, if we are talking about fantasies, then I thought that it's the right time to also talk about Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which is also my next read in 21 books that I want to read in 2021. Now, I read Six of Crows last year, and it was not a very happy and a very satisfying read. I mean, I did like it, I did enjoy certain bits of it, but for the most part, it was a very difficult read, and I had to almost keep it down twice. I really struggled in the first bit, and I think the major problem that I had with Six of Crows was the fact that it is a high fantasy book, and it has a lot of Russian influence in it, and I, for that matter, again, haven't read a lot of Russian books or books with a lot of Russian influence, so the names, the terminologies were just very difficult, and also with the fact that the magic system, or just how magic works, the political system, the people, and all the creatures or whatever that there are in this world, they weren't really introduced very well by the author. You were expected to know them, and I do not blame her, because you are truly supposed to be reading the first series that she's written, which I think is called Shadow and Bone. And I think a Netflix show is also coming out, which really looks very good. So I'm really interested to see that, because I haven't read Shadow and Bone, and I have no plans to read Shadow and Bone. And I did research before picking up this duology, that whether you're supposed to read Shadow and Bone or not before reading this. So a lot of people said that you actually do not have to read it, while if you read it, it just helps you understand the things way more better. But these two books can be read as standalones, like in a duology it can be read as standalones, and you do not have to read the Shadow and Bone, and which is what I did. But I regret it at a great extent, because a lot of things, at least the first 70-85 pages, was so difficult, and I just couldn't understand that what on earth is happening. And I still stood by it, and I suck it up, and I kept reading, and I kept reading, and until it actually became a little interesting when Kaz and went out, and he started gathering his team for the heist that he was supposed to go on to. And yes, from there on, it became really interesting. Now, I think I read Six of Crows 6 months ago almost, and the reason why I haven't picked up Crooked Kingdom yet is because I don't know how much I'm going to like this book, even though I've heard that this book is way more better than the first one, and I'm hoping that it is. I was very disappointed to see that the first book has only one chapter for Villain, who turned out to be my favorite character. And I've also heard that this book has a lot of villain characters, and that Jesper and Villain get together. I like Kaz, I like Inej, I think I like all the characters in general, and I'm really looking forward to see that change of opinion in myself, and just to see that where I go with this book. Next up, I have The Beauty of the Moment by Tanaz Batina, and I hope that is the right pronunciation of the author's name. Now, I picked this book up again because I was really interested to see what this author is capable of, because I was hearing a lot of good words when her book Hunted by the Sky came out. And again, it was a fantasy read, so I wasn't very sure if I want to go into that book. So I decided to go ahead and see if she's written any other book, and I came across this one. I think this is her debut novel, if I'm not wrong. And this is I think it's a contemporary romance, if I'm not wrong. and it is probably South Asian. It has South Asian representation, and I, being a South Asian myself, I really wanted to check this book out for myself. And it follows the two protagonists, Susan and Malcolm. Susan is this innocent girl who's into studies, and she's recently relocated, whereas Malcolm is the bad boy type, and the world has given up on him. He has given up on this world, and he does whatever he wants to. And somehow these two people, they cross paths, and their lives get intertwined, and they find themselves in position where they cannot let go of each other, but it's very difficult because of the different cultures and religions and society that they come from. So it's a truly a testament to the whole question of what love is when compared to religion and culture and society, and where love stands in regards to those aspects, and which one do you give more importance to. So I think that this is going to be a very quick and a breezy read, though I haven't gotten around to read it so far, even though it's been on my shelf for way too long. I think it's been almost a year since I picked this up. So yes, now because the last book was purple in color, I thought that why not pick up another book that I have, which is not only purple in color, but it also has it in the title, and it is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I don't think I need to give an introduction or a summary of what this book is, because it's a classic, and I think that most people already know about it. The reason why I chose to pick this up, because I had planned to read this book a long time ago, and I did pick it up back then, but I think I was very young, and the content that it deals with was just not appealing to me back then. And I think I just did not have that sort of maturity as a reader, so I couldn't appreciate what it is, and I couldn't just get into this book. And obviously classics by default are a little different and difficult compared to contemporaries and normal and general fiction. So I thought that why not give this book another attempt. And it's not a very thick read, it's a very short read. And this book deals with race and poverty and segregation and all those things that are very critical and very difficult, and they are still very relevant even in today's society. And I think that there is clearly a need for such stories to be discussed and talked as much as we talk about the other books, and which is why I included this in. And also because this follows a story of a black girl who becomes and turns into a woman. And this is also a classic, and other books on my 21 books are not classics, and they aren't probably books that have black characters, I think. So yes, so that is why I picked up Color Purple. Up next is another purple book, Fin, Dry and Fireflies by Harry Cook. Now, I happened to come across this book on Instagram, and I saw that a lot of people who had read it had very amazing things to say about it. Also, it has a very high rating on GOODREADS. And I went ahead and looked at the synopsis, and it really appealed to me, so I just went ahead and got it for myself, because I think every once in a while I need to have like a cute LGBTQIA plus romance, just to make me believe that the world that we are heading into is a more accepting and a more inclusive one. So for those of you who do not know, this book deals with our character Finn, who is a gay kid, and he sort of happens to kiss one of his friends, and later that turns into bullying, and that leads for him to relocate himself with his family. And obviously his parents aren't very happy. When he relocates, he finds himself in a new town and a new school, where he finds friends who are obviously very supportive, and also the fact that he meets this really incredible and charming guy called Rai, and things happen between them, and they go to pride parades, and they have a passion for vinyl discs and moonlight talks and whatnot. So it's just one of those very satisfying read, and I truly cannot wait to get into this between one of those difficult reads and one of those exhausting reads, like let's say between The Coat of Wings and Ruin and The Color Purple. So I think when you put a very easy, breezy and cute romance or an easy book to read in between two difficult books, I think you can always be out of the reading slump, because we readers often go into reading slumps so often. And I think that this practice really helps with me. So if you're somebody who's struggling, I would suggest you to try this out, and do let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Now, I have a book that is truly giving me commitment issues, and that is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. Now, I have been a huge Twilight fan. I remember there was a time when all that I wanted to do in my life was to become a vampire, and that is true. So I have lived through that phase, and then I grew up, and Twilight just became a distant memory, a sweet, bittersweet memory of my yesteryears. But when this book finally got announced, because obviously there were rumors that this book is about to come out, and the fact that Stephanie Meyer had put out 2 chapters, I think, or it got leaked or something happened, and I knew that this book was in talks for a very long time before it actually got published. So when I saw that it's official, I really couldn't contain my excitement. And I remember talking to one of my very close friends, Widhi, and she just happened to go across and book a copy for me. She pre-ordered this copy for me, and I got it as soon as it released. But somehow I just couldn't get into this book, and since then it's always been lying on my shelf. Every time I look up at it, I feel bad and I feel miserable for not reading it. But every time that I do pick it up in my hands to read it, I just think that what is the point of reading such a fat book just from the other person's character? And while I know and I truly believe that perspectives are very important, because perspectives is what makes each one of us different, from completely change the story. And which is why Twilight is just 300 and some pages in this book, which is just basically Twilight, but from the other perspective is around 700 to almost 800 pages long. And the fact that Edward doesn't sleep. So but still, I think I just haven't been able to convince myself to pick this up just yet, but I am going to do that very soon, because I still want to get to know Cullens a little more than what I knew them from Bella's perspective. And just the fact that I want to go back and spend some time with my Cullen family, and the craziness that I had when I was really young and in my teenagers. And that's about it. Now, the next book that I have on my list is Tim Federle's The Great American Whatever, and I think that it's a very underrated title. Not many people know about it. And it's a shame, because I think from what I have heard about this book and from whatever little reviews that I've read, I think that it is a really interesting and a different sort of a read, which just needs to be out there, and more people should be reading it just to experience that what it has to offer. And I am a film enthusiast. I am a person who has made his own short films. I study films. I love watching films. So when I got to know that there is a YA book that deals with screenwriting and films in general, I was really excited. And that is the prime reason why I picked this up. From what I know about the story, it deals with this character called Quinn, and he is battling depression and trauma after he lost his sister in a car accident. And he and his sister used to make films together. Ever since that accident, he hasn't made anything, he hasn't done anything. His life has just been miseries and just just sadness one after the another, and the entire family is broken. So he has this enthusiastic friend called Quinn, who forces him to come out and try new things and try to be happy. And after one haircut and entering into a party, Quinn meets this new guy, and this guy sort of helps Quinn refined his passion for films, and he starts imagining scenarios with this guy, and starts writing these scenarios in the format of a screenplay. And at one point, the screenplay and the real story, they sort of converge and diverge, and it becomes so intermixed that you do not know that which is true and which is false, like which is real and which is unreal. And it's very witty, it's very humorous, and it's just one of those read which is meant to tell you that no matter what you have lived through, and no matter how hard it seems, when you truly try to find and live by your passion, you can choose to come out of it. Up, I have this review copy called The Colors We See by Kaiser Winters. It has a beautiful cover, and it just came in from the UK. And this book is about this girl called Hazel, and she loves music. She's very carefree. She has recently relocated, and she's just exploring the world, exploring who she is. And she happens to come across this guy called Liam, and he is a songwriter. He performs, and he asks Hazel to join Liam on a tour that he and his friends are going to. And Hazel, who clearly has no plans for the future, no set set plans for the future, chooses to go with Liam and to explore what the world has in store for her. And while she is exploring and is on this tour with Liam, who is a complicated guy, and she's falling hard for him, and the fact that Liam is a complicated guy just doesn't make anything more easier or simpler. And before she can turn back, it's probably too late. So this book is about brimming art parties and music and culture and love and of heartbreaks and all those things that you would naturally want to read in a good romance. I think it also follows the good girl and the bad guy trope. Uh, I also feel very certain that this is going to be a very interesting read from whatever I have read, and because I did read a couple of pages and I really liked what I read, so I'm really looking forward to read this and put up my review for this very, very, very soon. And now I have the only book from Cassandra Clare that I would probably ever read, and that is The Course of True Love and First Dates. And it is a very, very short read, almost around 100 pages, if not less. And the reason why I have it on my list is because I always wanted to read a Cassandra Clare book, but I was very intimidated to start any of those books because I know for a fact that I think there are three different series, but all of those are interconnected and they all fall under the Shadowhunters world. But I just did not wanted to read only one part of it and not go to the others. And I know for a fact that if I start one, then I just wouldn't be able to convince myself to not read the others. And by the looks of it, it's around 16 to 17, if not more, books, and more are upcoming, and they have their release dates, and all of those things are panned out by the author. And I don't think that I am in the state where I want to pick up a series that huge. So I thought that why not just quickly go ahead and pick the shortest book that I have. And this deals with Magnus and Alec. The reason why I know them is through the Netflix adaptation of The Mortal Instruments, and I truly enjoyed the banter and the chemistry and the relationship between Alec and Magnus, and I thought that why not just go ahead and pick the shortest book that I could spot on the website of Amazon and pick it up and see for myself that how is the writing and the world building and everything in general, because obviously movies and books are never similar, and from whatever I've heard from people, the TV series is not that great, and a lot of things haven't really gone in accordance to the books, and probably it never is, but a lot of people just seem to hate it or completely deny its existence. So I'm really excited to read this book and also to tick it off because it's such a short one and it would just give me +1 on my reading goals. So yes. Next up, I have an anthology or a short story collection, which is the Book of Rumi, and this book was sent to me by my dearest friend Ankita as a part of our Christmas/New Year exchange. And she sent me this because she knows for a fact that I've been reading so much of contemporary and YA and romance and fantasy that she thought that it's time that I went back to something more philosophical and something which is more connected to the human world and teaches me a couple of things which otherwise all the other books that I read would probably not be able to bring out in the way that Rumi can. And she also knows that I am a fan of Rumi and I've read a lot by Rumi because my another very dear friend Shruti gifted me a collection of poems by Rumi, and while I haven't been able to completely read all of that because I am very bad with poems, so it really takes me a lot of time to actually sit down and decipher the meaning of each of the poems. But still, this is at least a short story collection, so even though a lot of things in this book are very metaphorical, but yet if you read it with the dedication and the patience, I think that this book can turn out to be a brilliant book because it almost teaches you a lot of important things in life which otherwise cannot be taught to people just off the guard. And it's a very short read in general and a very informative and insightful and interesting read. So I have been looking forward to pick this up very soon. In fact, the way I think I would be doing this again to, to not go into a reading slump is to read 3-4 short stories together at one time and then keep it back and then come back and then pick it up again and then read it. and I think that would help me not take in so much of philosophical stuff at one go, because I think when you are getting to know a lot about philosophy or just metaphorical stuff that has to deal with hidden messages and morals and values, I think if there's an over exposition to it, then it doesn't really work. You just truly do not learn anything, and it just goes inside from one ear and comes out from the another. So I do not want to do that with this book, and I want to give it the kind of respect that it deserves, and which is why I would be reading a bunch of stories at one time and then keeping it back, and then again picking it up again, and then again reading it, and then again keeping it back until I finish reading the book. So yes. Next up, I have Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is a book that was sent to me by my very dear friend Bookish Bell 1008 Vaishnavi. She would be down in the description box, and you can go ahead and check her out if you want to. And she read this book and she absolutely loved it. She compared it to The Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, which is one of my all-time favorite reads of 2020 and in general of all times. And I cannot wait to get into this book because I have heard so much about this book already, and all of it has just been so positive. And this book deals with Luke and Oliver. I think Oliver is the name. Yes, Luke and Oliver. And Luke is this guy whose parents are rock stars, and his parents split. His dad was in the rehab for many years, and now that his dad is making a comeback, so Luke needs to clear up his image so that he would once again be in the limelight, and so that every good thing is highlighted and nothing bad or things that aren't supposed to be out in the public goes out. So he's looking for a boyfriend who is very decent and he's very nice and has no problems, or he's not complicated, and Oliver seems to be the perfect match for it. Now, both of them sign up for the fake dating, and the problem with fake dating, as this book says at the back, is the fact that fake dating can feel a lot real, and when these two people start feeling for one another is very difficult. And by the time that they realize that they're falling hard for each other, they try to break that, and they try to go ahead in different directions, but only to fail. And then obviously, because it's a contemporary romance, so everybody knows that how it's going to end, but it's about the journey and the way it's written. And from whatever, as I said earlier, from whatever I've heard, it's amazing, and I cannot wait to pick this up. This is probably going to be in my February 2021 reads. I'm going to pick it up around Valentine's, because I think it's just going to give me that sense of comfort when I truly do not have anybody in my life. So why not just escape into books? I have another book which can probably be picked up around the Valentine's. That is The Bad Boy and the Tomboy by Nicole Nwosu. I hope that is the correct pronunciation of the author's name. Sorry if it isn't. Now, this is a Wattpad story, so if you've seen this book anywhere, or if you've heard of it, if you've read it, then don't be surprised. This is probably still on Wattpad, so you can go and check it out if you want to. And the reason why I picked it up is because I'm such a huge consumer of Wattpad stories. Every now and then, when I'm not reading books, I am reading Wattpad stories, be it fan fiction or just original content by random authors. I really enjoy reading on Wattpad. At once, I also had an account where I used to write, but obviously it was never anything great, so I had to shut it down. Um, so this story follows Macy, Cedric, and Sam. Macy is not your typical female protagonist. She plays football and she's very tomboyish. She comes across this really amazing and sweet guy called Cedric, and they sort of start dating. But there is one problem, and that is Cedric's cousin brother, Sam. And Sam has a reputation of being absolutely evil and bad and complicated and all those things that that draws empaths to narcissists, or that whole trope of good girl and the bad guy, and the bad guy changing for the good girl, and all of that, the literal 50 Shades of Grey plot line. And again, I don't know how much of that is true for this book, but from whatever I can see at the back, I think that is just how it's going to end up. And a lot of people might think that why have I picked it up when I already knew that how it's going to go or how it's going to end. So the short answer is that sometimes you just want to read very trashy stories, and the fact that books like these exist is a testament to the fact that you do not really need to always pick up and read a very difficult read. Sometimes just reading a very easy and breezy and just a very trashy content like a Wattpad story can really work, and it can really bring you that happiness and that joy and that pleasure of reading that otherwise some books which you have on your shelf might not be able to do so. Now that we are moving towards the end of the 21 books that I've read, I'm feeling a little relieved because it's been such an exhaustive list. And now I have Adam Silvera's More Happy Than Not, and yes, this is the new cover for this book. It has the bonus chapter. I have read only one book by Adam Silvera by now, which is What If It's Us by Adam Silvera and Becky Albertalli, obviously. And ever since I read What If It's Us, he's already become one of my favorite authors. And the fact that if you just go and follow him on Instagram, he talks a lot about mental health, and the fact that he never shies away from the fact that he is dealing a lot with his own mental health with related to anxiety or depression, and how he's going for therapy and how he's doing with his medicine and all of those in general. So naturally, his books also have a lot of undertone and subtext and themes surrounding mental health in general. And this is his debut novel, which is also very highly critically acclaimed. And I happened to pick this up because I found the plot very interesting, more interesting than the others. And as a matter of fact, I know that Adam Silvera's all other books, apart from What If It's Us, are really, really very sad. That Adam is the master of writing sad stories. So I was not very ready last year because, as I said, I was also dealing with anxiety myself. So I was not very convinced of reading sad stories myself, which is why I couldn't pick it up a long time ago when I actually wanted it to pick it up. And a part of me is glad because this book came all the way from Los Angeles. My friend Vidhi, my best friend Vidhi, she gifted me a copy of this book, and she ordered it from this store called Book Soup, and they had the signed copy for this book. So Adam actually signed my copy, and I'm eternally grateful to actually have a copy from him. And okay, now I'm stopping the fanboying and going back to what this book is about. So as you see, the main protagonist, who looks a lot like Adam himself, is Aaron. And Aaron has recently lost his father, who committed suicide. Happiness has just escaped his world, and he just doesn't know what to do. He has a girlfriend, but things are just difficult and it's not working out between them. He somehow comes to meet this guy called Thomas, if I am correct. Yes, Thomas. And with the help of Thomas, he's able to go out and explore, and he's a little confused because he's not being able to understand the kind of feelings that Thomas is making him feel, and why is he suddenly getting attracted to Thomas. And as Thomas and Aaron get closer, there's obviously a strain in the relationship between Aaron and his girlfriend. And Aaron is not happy with it, and Aaron just doesn't know what to do with his with these feelings that he's having for this another guy, because he's not sure, because he's never had them before. And so he decides to go in for this surgery that is happening. It's by the Loreto Institute's revolutionary memory altering procedure, where you go in and your a certain memory that you want to be removed or altered is done, and once it's performed, you can come out, and you will completely forget about it, and you'll just live your life as if it never happened. But in that process, it asks a very important question: that why does happiness have to be so hard, and why do you have to remove your own memories? Because if you do that, then you're truly removing a part of your own self, and what good it is to remove a part of your own self and not be who you truly are, and not trying to be who you truly are and enjoy who you are. So it definitely sounds like a very interesting read, but also a very difficult read because it has a lot of triggering subjects. And but at the end of the day, it's very heartwarming and it's very good. And obviously a sheer tearjerker, and I expect nothing less from Adam Silvera, sheer amazing human. And that's about it. Since we were talking about memory altering procedures, I thought it's time to also put this book out, which I have on my list. It's called The Binding by Bridget Collins, and this is a fantasy book wherein you follow Emmett Farmer, and he is a binder's of pretense. Now, in this world, books have a very different significance. Books are not like the ones that we have. In this world, books hold memories, and these books are prepared by book binders, and not everybody in this world is a book binder, so it's a very special and a very rare ability that people possess, and those who possess it, they are not very highly looked upon. So when Emmett's family comes to know that he is a binder's apprentice, they are not very happy, and they instantly drop him off at his mentor's workshop, and that is where he learns who he truly is, and what work does he have. And his entire work is to help people, those who come to him, and he takes their memory out and binds them into a book so that they can go back and live their lives happily. Now, all is going fine and well until he comes across one book in his mentor's library, where he sees that that particular book has his name on it. And this is the mystery, that whose memories had Emmett in it, and Emmett hasn't even met that person as of yet, is what I believe. And from what I know, this is an M&M romance, so you have an LGBTQIA representation in here, and the world building is great. It's very atmospheric. It's not a high fantasy, so it's not very difficult to read. It's a very famous and a very critically acclaimed book, and also for the fact that it is absolutely gorgeous. I have a physical paperback copy of this book as well, but just because this book had such a beautiful hardcover that I couldn't resist myself, and I just went ahead and got myself the hardcover as well, because look at it, it's just gorgeous. So this is one of those books that I picked up because of its cover and because of the content that it deals with. The idea, it sounds really very interesting to me. I've never heard of something like this before, and the fact that it also has LGBTQIA representation in it just makes it the cherry on cake that I look for. So yes. Now the second last book on my list is Jandy Nelson's I'll Give You the Sun. I have heard so much about this book from so many different people, and I picked this up mainly because the plot seemed really interesting to me. So this is about two twins, siblings, I suppose, not twins, oh no, yes, they are twins, Noah and Jude, and both of them happen to be very close when we start reading the story, but by the end of the book they are very apart. They do not talk as much as they used to, because there is some sort of tragedy that drives them apart, and the fact that they both are falling for boys that they can't have, and that love is very complicated. And this book is also told in a very interesting format, I've been told. Not only that, it has dual perspectives, and the way it works is that the first section is told by Jude, I think I'm not sure, but the first section is told by one of the two twins, and when they are around 14 or 15, they are young, and then the next one is told by the other twin, and they are just a little older to what they were in the first section, like 1.5 years older. And in that section you get to know that what went wrong and why they aren't talking. And I think that that is a really interesting point, because it doesn't only just categorizes itself as a YA, but it also sort of becomes a mystery and a suspense, because a lot of my friends who've read it have told me that it's such a page turning book that you're always on the edge, and it makes you feel a lot of things. And the title probably is the most perfect and the most appropriate title that there could have been. So I cannot again wait to get into this book, but I think I'll have to keep it on hold because so many books and so little time. So I would probably be picking this up in May, because I think of the whole feel that it gives me a very summer vibe. So I would be picking this up only in the summertime. So yeah, that's about it for this one. You believe that I've already spoken about 20 books? I cannot. So now finally, the book that is last on my 21 books that I want to read is The Cruel Prince, the first book in this trilogy, which is the Folk in the Air trilogy, and by Holly Black, obviously. And I've heard a great lot of things about this book as well. Good things, some very bad things. A lot of people have either very positive things to say about this book, or they have very negative things to say about this book. So I do understand that they are very polarizing, and I just wanted to go in and see for myself that what is it that makes this book so polarizing and so different for different people. And also that the premise sounds really interesting. Now that I've read Aquitar by Sarah J. Maas, I am very well versed, at least that is what I think, with fairies and how fairies work in general. And I think this book also deals with fairies because our main protagonist, which is Jude, and his and her three sisters, they enter into the fairy realm after their parents are killed in front of them. And because these fairies are very difficult with the humans, and these people have no magical abilities of themselves, so they struggle a lot and they are constantly bullied. And the main protagonist, which is Jude, she realizes that in order for them to survive in this world, they have to become as cunning and as sly as these fairies, and that is what she does. Um, you also have the other protagonist whose name is Garden, and he is probably in the same school from what I've heard as Jude, and they have this whole enemies to lovers trope that is going on, and that the fact that it's very toxic, and it's very difficult and it's very problematic. But again, I haven't read this book, so I cannot categorize and label it as any of those. But yes, I would definitely want to go ahead and read this book. In fact, the whole box set was available when I was buying it, and it was for really cheap. But then I thought that what's the point of buying all the three books of a trilogy when I have no clue if I would actually end up liking the first book or not? So I just went ahead and got myself the first book just to see if I actually enjoy this book or not. So here I am, and that's about it. So guys, that were my 21 books that I want to read in 2021. And obviously now I'm not saying that I would be reading all of these books in the literal way that I've told you right now. It could shift, it could change depending on my college, on my university, and where I shift to, because my bachelor's is just about to come to an end. I would probably start working or just go for my master's, and I don't know which city I would be in, or if I would just be home. I don't know how COVID is going to go about, and how many ARCs are going to come my way, and when I will be able to wind up the ones that I have at with me right now. So I'm not sure when I'll be coming to end to all of these books, but I will very soon, before 2021 ends. And I had a goal of 50 books in general to read this year. I do not want to pressurize myself a lot. So that's about it. And I hope that you really did enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed putting this list of books together. And I know that a lot of books on these on the list isn't very famous, or some of them are really famous, but I would really want you to go ahead and check all of them all out. I would be linking each one of them down in the description box, their Goodreads profile, so that if you want, you can directly just go ahead and check whatever book that you want to. Also, you can always find me on my Bookstagram, on my WordPress blog, or you can write to me on my Gmail. All the links will be down below in the description box. And let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what are your thoughts, or if you are also looking forward to read any of these books, or if you think that any of these books are similar to the books that you have read and you would want to recommend it to me, then feel free to comment that also in the down below, and I would love to go through all of it and discuss it with you guys. And until next time, I will see you very soon with another video, and bye.